Well, this is an episode I'm looking forward to because for those of you that are new along to the head coach story this year, we have a little stop off after every 5 seasons and do a bookmark. We see how our former clubs are getting on, we see how our careers progressing, and we have a look at some of those things we don't normally get to see. But on this occasion, we're also going to have a look at the British footballing pyramid. And unlike any year before in the head coach, we have no idea what's been going on because we're in the far east of Asia. Yes, hello, and welcome along to part 36 of this head coach story with me, Daniel. Today, we are going to stop off for the first bookmark of our FM24 edition. We'll have a look at our career, our previous clubs, our current club a little bit as well. We'll run through the season review, which we didn't get to do last time out. And we'll also have a look at the British and European footballing pyramids, something we've not had a chance to do this year while we've been out in Asia. So if you're looking forward to all of that, seeing what's happening in the footballing world and reflecting on what has been possibly my most remarkable rise ever at the start of a head coach story, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. We're going to start off with our season review from this save, but very quickly a plug for yesterday. If you didn't see our transfer special at Southend United, that one is up in the eye above. But for now, we're going to run through our end of season review and important messages of Kashima Antlers before we get on to the rest of the footballing world and the bookmarks. So let's go ahead to our inbox and have a look at what's been going on here. And the first thing I wanted to stop off at was a bit of interest from the Asian Champions League. Now, I don't know how often this happens in real life, if at all, but we have got through from our group, as you already know. We played Daegu in the last game and we lost to them, but we'd already won the league. We rested everyone, it was fine. And now we've drawn them again in the second round. So good news, I guess, that we know when we play our first 11, we're capable of beating them. But very odd, we've got the same team who got through as the lucky loser in the group in the second round for the last 16 as well. So hopefully a quarter-final place at stake there. Let's move on to the end of season messages though, because the club actually got a little bit smaller. I didn't realise that the supporters wanted us to play direct football, which they're very disappointed about. And next season, there's going to be an even bigger problem because we had those issues with the club culture items reverting and the board expectations. But next season, there is no doubt about it. We've got a challenge for the title next season and win it the year after. Simple as that. What I do find interesting is the board don't want us to play direct football, but they do want us to make the most set pieces and be defensively solid. So I wonder if our director of football would sign people with that in mind. Guess we'll wait and find out. If we get through the rest of the items though, the squad dynamics are pretty good and I'd see the leaders staying here, so that shouldn't be an issue. We also have the team off for an end of season break, which is a lot shorter than normal. So I wonder if we're going to have to manage fatigue and manage pre-season fitness next year. And the board then set their initial budgets as well. Despite missing out on continental football for the next season, we get 4.9 million and a wage bill of 300 grand, which hopefully will help the director of football buy some decent players because Lord knows we at least need a right wing back. We'll wait and find out what happens in the next episode there though. A winter transfer special at Japan will follow. But for now, we want to have a look at our career and the footballing pyramids too. So let's go back to the home screen and have a look at my profile because this is where basically every head coach record has been broken. Never before in this save have we had a 2.5-star reputation after 4.5, 5 years. We've never had 4 coaching badges because we've never been at clubs that could afford them before. And I think that has been the biggest success so far of being at this club and being in Japan generally, is that because the TV deals are very good, because the top teams are all about developing youth players and bringing in youngsters, we are getting a lot of big money sales. Even at Gifu in the third tier, we were getting offers of high 5-figure, maybe even low 6-figure sums for some of our average younger players because there's such a focus on it here. And that has made it really easy for the clubs to stay in a good financial position, which you combine with the fact that they want to progress coaches and players. You combine with the fact they've got a great TV deal, and it's made it easy to get that coaching badge we request every year. I mentioned it in a couple of the recent episodes. In the last couple of years as a head coach, we've been either in Wales or the English non-leagues after 5 years. The fact that we are now a 2.5-star reputation manager in continental football in the last 16 of a Champions League. It's a remarkable feat. It's something we'll probably never see in the head coach again. And I'm sorry if you are new along this year, because you're going to think this just goes swimmingly and easily every year. But this has been the most remarkable, joyful experience, and I've really loved Japanese football so far. We are improving our attributes, and we have obviously got a pretty good reputation already. But if we have a look at our career statistics, they're all looking pretty good, aren't they? Because our career stats overall, 3 club jobs. We've been in a job for nearly 3 years, our first one at Gifu. We've earned over £500,000, which there's no chance we would have done in England or Wales. We've also won nearly 60% of our games. We've scored bundles of goals. We've had attacking sides. We've won 2 promotions. I mean, it's just been an absolute joy, hasn't it? If we have a look at our director of football stats, though, transfer value of £8.5 million in terms of players in, and transfer value of players sold of £17.5 million. And part of that was this last window with Kashima, where the likes of Ibasuki were sold for huge money. The fees to agents in this save probably top what we would have paid in transfer fees for most 5-year bookmarks. In fact, go back and look at the last couple of years and see how it compares, because it will make you laugh in comparison to this. I don't think we realise quite how big of a job we've got here and quite how well we've done in Asia, but it's definitely been a very different and a much bigger experience than if we'd been in the English lower leagues or Welsh football. So let's have a look at the job history, because I think it's fair to say that after a steady start in that first half of the season, FC Gifu was the gift that kept on giving. Hiroki Izumi was the legend. I don't know if he ever got another job. He was unemployed for some time. So let's have a quick look at him before we go and look at the club. I'm afraid Hiroki Izumi is still unemployed and his attributes are still getting far better, which is interesting. But yep, since going from Gifu in 2025, the moment that made us leave that club was when they released him inexplicably. Unfortunately, he's still not got a job. I'm so tempted to break the rules and bring him in, but I'm not going to. We won 2 successive titles there. We were absolutely phenomenal. I loved managing Gifu. They've now given their South Korean interim manager the job permanently because he kept them up in the J1 league again. He's done an absolutely outstanding job. And what's great since we've left Gifu and Yokohama is all the Japanese license issues have been fixed. So now Ryo Kubota has got his lovely little curtains. What a player he was for us. And we should have quite a few of the originals still there because we only left a couple of years ago. If you have a look here, you can see Najim and Ortiz still involved in those defensive areas. Moving into the midfield, we know about Kubota. Inoue was the one who left Yokohama just after we joined them. Yasuke Hanya, he's still at the club as well. Done a really good job when he was signed by Hiroki Izumi. And then up front, Ainaga, who we had on loan when we won the second tier, is also part of the squad. But maybe not as many as I expected to see there. Eduardo Gomez is in the reserves as a goalkeeper. Did a solid job, as did Endo. But a few of those are just over the hill now, aren't they? Anyone else down there that is particularly of note? Not from our time, I don't think. So maybe not quite as many as we expected. Sugiura was that hot prospect when we were at the club. He's not really developed into anything special. FC Gifu, though, a brilliant first club for us. They've done well since we left as well. We took them up. They stayed up in 13th. They've now stayed up in 15th again. They're a club that are definitely improving. They've signed a new top goal scorer who is a pretty solid striker at this level. They're just a good club. And again, they'll be favourites for relegation next year. And I wouldn't bank on them doing anything other than surprising the odds. So 26,000 stadium, good facilities. I mean, it is actually ridiculous that that was our first job. I mentioned it from the start. We fell on our feet. We got a brilliant director of football. And after surviving that first season when we took charge, where let's be fair, they were one of the pre-season favourites for promotion. They were bottom of the league because they'd had an awful start. And we got the lucky draw of being able to take them over and save them. And it is probably the best first job we'll ever have in this save. Hiroki Izumi, did he overtake Pat Nevin as the best director of football we've ever had at a first club? It's possible. It really is possible. But not enjoyed a first stint that much since Breakin, and the success is definitely taking us to a new high. What it did mean is we got to leave for Yokohama FC. After back-to-back promotions, we decided that without Hiroki Izumi, we would not stay at Gifu. We went to Yokohama, we finished 6th in the first season, and we left them in 3rd place midway through this one. They had a really good side, Yokohama, and you know what? I enjoyed managing them as well. A big club, plenty of quality. They finished 7th this year again, so they're still a decent side. And you have a look at the players they've got. I mean, the biggest surprise for me was Baluk. He ended up being a brilliant signing when he came in. But the biggest problem there was we found the frailties with the director of football. A lot of the stars were sold. And once you get to the J1 League, you find that a lot of players are sold immediately when they're worth 3 or 4 million. And it does make it a lot harder to keep people for the long term and build a team. Possibly even harder than it was at the lower levels. But they've still got most of this side because we only left 6 months ago. And it was the first time we saw a link up with an Englishman. Jack Fitzwater on the playing side and Sean Holmes on the director of football front. But now we move on to our current club, Kashima Antlers. An agonising miss out on continental football at the end of this season, but we did finish above Yokohama, which makes me think that, you know what, we made the right decision. And we've got to be in a title challenge next year, which, if we keep a number of these star players, should be an absolute minimum expectation. So that's our relatively relaxing and easy career path so far. We've not had the big issues of getting stuck in Wales with a half-star reputation club, 5 16-year-old left-backs coming in, and no budget, no professional contracts to speak of. We've been in a professional setup the whole time. We've had players earning a decent living, playing brilliant football. And for the first time, we've really played attacking football from the start of a save as well, because we've not been firefighting with semi-pro teams. So that's been the most thrilling part of this for me. I'm going to enjoy it rather than apologise for it, because by next year, I'm sure we'll be back struggling in a lower Northern Irish or English league. So let's not feel too apologetic for getting an easy ride this time out. We have obviously got to think about in the next 5 years how we plot our return to Europe or to another continent, because Japan has got a certain limit, and it is probably the 3-star reputation. We're in the latter stages of the Champions League here, and while I would love to win a trophy in Asia, even if it is just a Japanese League Cup, if the right opportunity comes, we will take it to move across. So for now, that is our current and former clubs. That is our career so far. But let's have a look at the bit that, surprisingly, we've not had a chance to look at this year. We've not been able to keep an eye on the English leagues or the British leagues generally, because we've been so focused on what's happening over here and enjoying a completely new experience. So we're going to run through the English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish pyramids. We're going to have a look at the Champions League and all of that stuff as well, and just see how everyone's been getting on. So let's start with the English Premier League. Well, of course, unlike every other bookmark we've done before, we're only halfway through a season here. So we're going to have a look at what's happened the first 4 years, and you can see that Arsenal had a spell of dominance for 3 seasons, followed by Manchester City picking up the last title. And it looks like they're going to get this one as well. You've still got the main stars at both of those clubs. You can see Saka, Haaland, De Bruyne still going 5 years in at 36. He must be on the peak of his powers, but still playing regularly and doing pretty well. We have a look at the Manchester City squad. They are as strong as you can imagine. They've still got Pep Guardiola there. Only one senior goalkeeper, which seems a little bit weird. A couple of youngsters involved as well, but they've got young players worth 150 million. And they've got superstars everywhere. I don't understand why they've only got one goalkeeper though. Something is not quite right on that front. If we go and have a look by comparison at Arsenal and see what they've been doing, they have got 2 proper goalkeepers this time. They've also got a lot of new signings in there. And up front, it's almost new look, isn't it? But a side that have been dominant throughout. Actually, not as many of the original team as I expected. A bit surprised to see the likes of Luke Shaw and John Paul Van Heck in there. And Patino's made it through as well. I'd argue that's not the strongest squad. I'm a little bit surprised by that, I've got to be honest with you. But those 2 are the ones that have been winning it. So we'll see what happens when we return to English football. No Luton Town in the Premier League, as we've become accustomed to expecting in FM. But there is a place for the likes of Hull City and Sunderland, who have returned after a few years away. Let's go down to the Championship, see who's been winning that. Oxford United 3rd in the Championship. Luton are up in the playoff chase. The likes of Brentford and Wolves there as well. At the bottom end, you've got a few of the usual suspects, I guess you would say. I wouldn't say there's anything that shocking. We've had saves before where after 5 years, there have been teams that have moved by 2 or 3 divisions. And I guess unless Oxford get promoted to the Premier League, I wouldn't say anything really stands out there. Let's go and move on to League One then. Oh, I should just quickly have a look at who won the league the 4 years. 2 for Leeds, who have been yo-yoing. 2 for Burnley, who have been yo-yoing from the start of the save, that is. And then also Southampton last year. But League One, we have got basically 3 teams who came down winning it. Interesting to note, Hull went down in the first season. They won League One and then have got to the Premier League within 3 years. That's a pretty impressive effort. Bottom of League One is Wigan, which is maybe a slight surprise. Sheffield Wednesday struggling there as they are in the South End save. Then at the top end of the table, again, no massive shocks, just a few clubs that have come down from the Championship. But we're not seeing those big divisional swings that we're used to in these saves. Is that just because we're not managing in England? I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. Into League Two, we have got, again, no massive surprises on the face of it. A few clubs that have come down from League One, but mostly that is a pretty standard looking League Two, isn't it? A couple of National League clubs in there, but again, nothing that really stands out. We go to the National League. Are we going to get a shock? Southend United battling near the top. Good for them. Lowestoft mid-table in the National League. They've had a double promotion. Billericay the same. So a couple of teams making a bit of a breakthrough. At the top end, though, there's not any other big surprises. At the bottom, though, we've definitely got one. Northampton start the save in League One. They've got Tom Heaton in charge, and 4.5 years in, they're in the relegation zone of the National League, so could have 3 relegations in 5 years. Right, so they got back-to-back relegations at the start of the save, and they finished in the bottom half both times since they've come down. That's really bizarre. Northampton, not a side that have spent silly, unsustainable money, not one that you'd expect to fly down the divisions. Interesting to note this, by the way. Look who's the top scorer at Southend. Two worlds have collided. Jayden Dans is there and is the top scorer. He's also a much better finisher than he is in my save. How on earth has that happened? But that is an interesting one. Very surprised to see Northampton down there. Let's look at the North and South, see if anyone can beat that. Nothing major. St Albans in the North. That's hilarious. Scunthorpe still down there. Bury back in the National League North. Good to see. Not much else that really sticks out there. In the South, we must have a few clubs that have gone down. Woking have been relegated despite being one of the National League favourites at the start of the save. Again, I don't see too much that really stands out there. So definitely Northampton, probably the biggest mover in English football. We look at the FA Cup and see who's been winning it. Arsenal and City have shared those as well, so the trophies are not getting spread about much in this year's game. Carabao Cup, Liverpool and Newcastle have picked up one apiece. They also face in the semi-finals this year. Manchester City with another couple there. Community Shield, of course, has been shared between those two. EFL trophies, that's a remarkable stat. Hull won it in 2025, and then their 21s have won it last year because they're a Premier League team. That's an incredible effort. Fair play to them. FA Trophy, Halifax won it back-to-back. I watched them win it at Wembley in real life last year. Will I be doing it again next season? Might look like it by the way things are going in this save. So that's English football out the way. Let's go and move on to Scotland, where we have had 5 years of Celtic dominance. They've won all of the first 4 titles. The nation reputation is dropping, and they're not in the top 10 anymore, so certainly won't be getting 2 teams in the European group stages. Celtic have got the likes of Antoine Semenyo up front, Wendia as a number 10. They're doing pretty well there, aren't they? Lee Nichols is at St Johnstone, though. Bazunu's at Celtic in goal. Rangers are top this season, though. They're 7 points clear. And they've got a few good players in their team, but seem to have a much younger Scottish approach with a few little bits of experience dotted in, rather than having the superstars that Celtic have gone for. So maybe a slight interest there. Hamilton have made it back up 2 divisions, but they're going straight back down one of them. 8 points from 20 games and 12 clear of safety. I've just noticed Dunfermline are third in the top tier as well. Fair play to them. They've definitely got back towards the top end. We go down to the Championship. Dundee United are in there, but again, no massive surprises, I wouldn't say. Into League One, not a huge amount going on. Partick struggling in mid-table, but we have seen some weird results in Scottish football in recent years. In League Two, Spartans top of the table, but again, nothing majorly shocking. Most teams moving from a division or so. Cowdenbeath back in there as well. Scottish Cup has been won by Celtic 3 times, Rangers once. The League Cup, Rangers twice, Aberdeen once. Hearts have won it and Celtic as well. Rangers have just beaten Celtic in the final of this year's one. And the Trust Trophy, my favourite competition. Rangers B, but aside from that, it has been Scottish first team dominance. Nothing from the Northern Irish or the Welsh teams. Let's have a quick look at the Welsh and Northern Irish Premier as well, where we have a surprise bit of news, because despite TNS's dominance and the fact they're going to win it this year, Barry Town United did win one last season. They got a title in, not really enough to make any dominance. Did they do anything in Europe? What did they do after? Oh, wow. They got all the way to the fourth qualifying round. It's a pretty good effort, to be fair to them. They didn't quite make the groups in the end, which probably would have changed the save for them. So nothing else there from Wales. No sign of the reform banger back in the top tier either. Let's move on to Northern Ireland, where Linfield have not won a title. It was Larne the first year who defended it, and then 3 in a row for Glentoran, who on paper have got some of the best players, but just never seem to deliver. Interesting to see them doing that. It looks like there's some good young players there among the top goal scorers. Wow. Yeah, some good young strikers coming through. I just wonder if they're losing a lot of talent again, but does look like the competition reputation is increasing. Northern Irish football maybe just gaining a bit of a threshold in Europe. I wonder if they've made it to the groups. Yes, Glentoran have made it to the Conference League group, so that's progress on their front. They did it 2 years in a row. Did they make it 3? Don't think so. No, but the last 2 seasons, they've been in Europa Conference groups, which is big progress for the nation. So great to see Northern Irish football doing well as well. And interesting to see that Warren Point, a save idea I've recommended to many of you, have made it back to the first tier within the 4 seasons. So Northern Irish football may be healthier than Welsh, but let's have a look at what's been happening in Europe. And we'll start with the Champions League. So the Champions League has been shared in this horrible new format by Manchester City and PSG, who have both won 2 apiece. We'd like to know who they've signed in addition to Mbappe to become superstars. They've signed a few good players, but not any gems. Van Foyth playing for both PSG and City. That's interesting. Oh, right, here we go. 163 million for Camavinga. They've also spent 200 million on Musiala. Wow. We are talking big sums. 77 on James Maddison, who's since moved on to Napoli. That's ridiculous fees. Gonzalo Ramos for 56. That must have been a pre-agreed one after a loan. But they have spent 350 million on 2 players. I mean, that's just astounding. We'll have to look at what the Premier League record fees are as well, actually. So City and PSG sharing those ones out. The Europa League, a bit of a mixed bag. Liverpool first season, but then Lazio, Real Betis and Bayer Leverkusen, the big nations sharing it between them. And then in the Conference League, bit more English dominance. Chelsea the second season, Newcastle the third, Juventus the fourth. But RC Genk the first year. That's a pretty stunning effort, isn't it? Fair play to them. They're second at the moment in the Jupiler League, but they've also got Laurent Blanc as manager. That is a very interesting set of events. So just back to the Premier League quickly and the record transfers. One of the biggest ones again is a transfer to Saudi Arabia, and it is Fabinho, who's moved back to England and then gone back out to Saudi again. Good work if you can get it, I guess. But no massive ones that year beyond 85 million. Year before, 94 million. Unai Simon solved Arsenal's goalkeeping problems. Reece Nelson for 50 going to Lazio. 200 million the third year. Wow. City spent 200 million on Rodrigo from Real Madrid. That's not a bad effort, is it? Also, then we've got the James Maddison deal. 75 million from United for Mikel Merino. Tomiyasu went to Spurs for 50 million. And Seguir went to City for 100 million again. Second season, wow. Al Ahly spent 124 million on John Stones. That's a pretty big effort. Javi Guerra, but no other massive transfers. And in the first season, Jared Bowen signed for £109 million by Manchester City. That's a pretty big transfer as well. Ross Barkley, 30 million from Luton to Leeds. Didn't become worth that in my save, did he? You can find me managing Luton on Twitch, where Ross Barkley is very much still a superstar, but that's a pretty impressive transfer fee. Let's go and move on to the World Cup and the international stage and see who's been winning the big competitions there. Well, no pressure, Gareth. The World Cup last time was won by England, and this is where it becomes interesting. So many of you have said this now. Someone said it on a stream the other day that Ecuador had won the 2030 World Cup. What on earth is going on with Ecuador in this save? I know they've got Caicedo. I know they've got 2 or 3 other good ones coming through. But to have a whole squad that's capable of doing it is pretty remarkable. The Stupiñán's in there as well. But there's not hundreds of them. They've managed to put up a really good effort. And I guess looking at the likes of Pacho, who's only 26, Hincapi, who's only 25, Caicedo's still going to be, 25, yet 26 now. There is a lot of potential for the future there as well. Very impressive from Ecuador. but England did win it in the final. Do we see who was the star of the show? If we go to England and have a look, 2026 World Cup final, Foden, Kane and Grealish. Fair play to them. We have a look at the national team as it is. Not that many changes. Don't know who that guy is. Miles Lewis Skelly. He starts the save as an Arsenal 16-year-old. He's now in there in the first team. There's also the addition of the likes of Jacob Ramsey, Harry Beckett, who is a regen at 19 on loan from United at Brentford. Proper wonder kid as well. And then further up, we have got the likes of Colwell in at centre-half, Gahey alongside him. But not a huge amount of change, which I guess does reflect that the England national team is a brilliant young one at the minute. Bellingham's still going pretty strong at Real Madrid. Rico Lewis still going pretty strong at City. It's on $500,000 a week there, by the way. That's a pretty staggering effort. Let's have a look at the Euros, see how that's gone. France won it in 2024, and 2028 will take place next summer. And should we have a look at the Nations League while we can? France and Italy have been the last two winners of that. Evan Ferguson, the top scorer in it, still at Brighton on 200 grand a week. So overall, I would say there's not that many big surprises in this save so far. PSG in the Champions League and their transfer fees certainly are. I would suggest that Northampton getting a double relegation and maybe a triple one by the end of the 5th season is a surprise. But I wouldn't say there's been a huge number of shocks we're used to expecting in these saves. Of course, in the next 5 years, the main aim for us is to try and get back towards European football, maybe take a tour via South America, but certainly to expand our horizons beyond Asia. It's been a brilliant start to a save for us. I would love to win a trophy. But equally, now we're playing continental football, and without having qualified for it for the next season as well, it's probably our big chance to make our next step up. So that's something we're going to see in the next few seasons. Of course, before that though, we've got a big summer transfer special. Our director of football is going to get to work, and we will be back now on the 9th of February for the start of next season, because it will not be starting with a league fixture. It will be starting with the last 16 of the Champions League in Asia. This is an opportunity to become superstars, but what squad are we going to have when we get to that point? If you want to find out the answer, and you did enjoy this first bookmark of our head coach save for FM24, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know in the comments where you think we'll be in 5 years' time, any surprises that I missed while looking through the leagues and the pyramids there, and anything that stood out to you as a potentially surprising factor from this story so far. Let me know what you think of our progress. It's definitely been record progress when it comes to a head coach save. If you want to stay up to date and find out if that trend continues or whether the trajectory will start to change direction, then please do subscribe and turn that notification bell on. We'll be back in a couple of days' time for a very big transfer special at Kashima Antlers, our first full off-season transfer window at the club. But in the meantime, we'll be back with deadline day at Southend tomorrow. If you missed yesterday's transfer special, that's up in the eye above. A massive thank you for your support with both saves. You can find that Southend one up there, as well as the Twitch channel, the football podcast, and so much more. But thank you very much for watching. Your support is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you back here next time as normal service resumes with a transfer special and a new season at Kashima Antlers.